Okay, recording.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Hi, everyone. Today's workshop will be about listening, speaking up, and giving feedback. Initially, my learning sharing focus was just on listening, but then I realized speaking up is just as important because if you don't speak up, you can't really, people won't know like that you're actually listening and you can't really contribute. So, cool. Here is what the workshop will be about, like broken down into 6 parts. The first three would be about how to listen, how to speak up, how to be comfortable with speaking up, and how to build the environment for your team to speak up. And the last 3 part will be how to give feedback, receive feedback, and how to ask for feedback. So there are 3 types of listening, and one is internal listening when you're actually thinking about your own voices and not paying attention. And the like a good example for that would be when you're when you're listening to like your family or like your very close friends, when you can kind of predict what they're saying next. So you sometimes just be like, again, they're saying this again. And for focused listening, it's when you're listening very closely, but you still can't really connect with the speaker. And that happens sometimes when you are in a workshop or in a speech that isn't really in your profession. So you're trying to understand listening to the speaker, but you if you have to explain it using other words to other people, you won't be able to get it. And for 360 listening is when you recognize what they're saying, how they're saying it, and what they're not saying. And this is what we want to achieve 360 listening. So instead of saying that these three are 3 levels of listening, I would say these are different types of listening that we all do. It's just in different situations, and we want to get to 360 listening in all situations. So, how do we get there? First, we can try having eye contact with them. Like if it's a virtual environment, we should try to have our camera at least in front of us where we're looking at instead of your camera like on your right, and then people can't really see that you're looking at them. And next, you can create space in your day. So if there's important meetings, you don't want to have them back to back. Otherwise, you just want to get it over with, and you won't really make time for you to digest what the person's actually saying, and then give you the full energy to go to another meeting. And third will be to engage, so like participate, and that goes hand in hand with what I'm about to share next. Why should we speak up? This is the retention rate of different types of learning. If it's a lecture, it's usually just 5%. What you remember after the lecture, it's 5%. And when you participate or by teaching others, like saying it again, applying it, you have a 90% retention rate. So before we talk about how we can be comfortable with speaking up, we want to think about why we want to speak up. And first, the most obvious reasons, you're being called out. The president of your RSO says, "What do you think?" So you have to say something. And second, you have opinions and you want to give feedback. When people actually say something, you feel like, oh, I actually think it's good. I actually think it's bad. I want to say something. And third, you want to play a role as a team member. And it's great that you want to contribute. And I think the most important reason of why we should all learn how to speak up is because it makes you grow by elevating your visibility. So here are 5 things you can do to be comfortable with speaking up, organized by the moment you get into the meeting until the time you get out of the meeting. So before you go into the meeting, you can, well, the meeting actually started before it actually started. Just like when we admit people into the room, initially there's like 3 people and then 5 people and 10 people. When you're at the beginning few, you can start a conversation or two with someone else in the meeting. So later on, you will feel like as if you've already talked and you've already had a connection with the person in the meeting. So it will be easier for you to speak later on. And the second thing you can do is to speak early. If you've been in a situation where your teacher has, like your professor wants everyone to contribute before the end of the class, otherwise you don't get points. Like you want to, if you have an idea, just say it. Otherwise, 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, you're gonna think, oh, this idea is not as good. I should probably say something else. And then that anxiety is not just later on you won't be able to speak as fluently. It's like later on, it's during the meeting when you're anxious, you don't really hear what other people are saying. So what you can do is to ask a quick question even at the beginning of the meeting. And I think something great you can do is to give a positive feedback on someone else's work, like, hey, Peter, I noticed that you reached out to Gordon Ramsay, and I think that's really great. It means that it shows that you're taking initiative, which is one of Zero2One's values. That's a great comment. And the third thing you can do, like during the meeting, you can keep track of what's going on. You can take notes, like just write down a few keywords, especially when you don't know much about what's going on. That few keywords can really help you keep track, or at least note down the parts that you understand. So later on, if you have to contribute, you can just expand on those keywords. And you can also use your strengths. Not necessarily the most talkative person is the best at contributing. Sometimes you can think about what you do best. Like if everyone agrees on a comment and you know that there's something that they aren't thinking about, you can ask some thought-provoking questions. Or also you can play the supporting role. Like if you've been in a situation where you pitch a brand new idea to like 30 people, you won't know how much that it means when one person say, oh, I think it would really work. And at the end of the meeting, you can commit to taking on the task before the next meeting, because it shows that you're taking initiative, commitment, and you have motivation. And it also helps you on the next meeting because you'll definitely have something to say and to update everybody about. So now that we know how to speak up, like why it is important to speak up, not necessarily everyone on your team knows how to speak up. So you want to create that environment for them to be comfortable. And you can do that by checking your biases. When a person pitches an idea, you don't want to assume or in any way indicate in your tone that the person is always raising problems, they have so many issues, they're slowing the team down. You should always assume that people who speak up have good intentions. Yeah, instead of thinking that they're bringing up problems, you should think about why they care and why it is important to them. And after you listen to their concerns, you want to engage with them. So perhaps have them elaborate or come up with possible solutions with them because it shows that you care. And after you listen to their solution or just their concern, you should avoid making them feel wrong. There's this classic answer, yes, blah, 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 but yes, I think, but something, I think it's not good. Instead, you should listen and understand and ask to clarify, because when you say yes, but it's kind of like just shooting them down. You should discuss with your team, because not probably it's just you that think it doesn't work. And last but not least, you should not judge, because if you shoot other people's ideas down, like the other members of your team will think that they will be treated the same way. So action towards others set the culture of your team, and that would perhaps stop like other people from contributing. Okay, so now we're done with the first part. Does anyone have any questions so far? I can't really see the chat function. Let me see. Oh, okay. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, I'm gonna move on. So how to give feedback? You can do 5 things. First, you can focus on specifics. When you give a feedback, you want to let them know the areas of improvement and the ways to improve. Let's say Tina just gave a presentation and you want to tell her that the way she started the meeting isn't as strong. Then you would say, I think the way you started the meeting isn't as strong, and that would be an area, the beginning of the meeting. And then the ways to improve would be, oh, perhaps next time you can address everyone in the room, say hi to everyone in the room, stuff like that. And another thing that goes into good feedback would be future-oriented feedback. So you should suggest future actions instead of evaluating past behavior. So you should suggest that in the future, you should perhaps try this, instead of saying, oh, the beginning of your meeting isn't as strong. Yeah, you should suggest something in the future that they can apply and that they can use. And when it comes to feedback, you should give both positive and negative, because when people think of feedback, they usually associate it with something negative, like what you didn't do well, what you have to improve. but positive feedback is just as important. So they would recognize that they're doing something that people like, so they'll keep doing it. Otherwise, they just feel like, oh, I'm just testing this out. Nobody said anything. Okay, I won't do it next. And the last two that I think are the most important, like the ones that I learned the most. So when you give a feedback, you want to focus on patterns. So instead of a specific event, like that event that made you want to give feedback, you should say like what trend that person has been doing over time. So let's say like, oh, I think you usually, I feel always like when it's a public event, you tend to do this. And then they would like look out after, like in the future when they want to do, when they're also in the public event, like they would look out and fix that problem. And your feedback should also be organizationally aligned. You should think about what impact does a person's strengths have on an organization? Does it motivate others or create a positive atmosphere or set an example? So if a person addresses everyone in the room, we should give them feedback such as, oh, that would strengthen our core values, like community. So I think you could go tie back to what your organization wants out of like each speaker or anything like that. So it can also like remind people that you're in an organization and then what your core values are. So how to receive feedback. When people give you a feedback, you want to recognize it as it encourages more feedback and then shows that you're open to opinions and you're willing to change. And after you recognize them, listen to them, you should implement it or try to implement it if it really works. You should explain or discuss with the person that gave you feedback, like how you will implement it. So let's say someone recommend you to add memes to your presentation. Then you should think about, oh, what kind of memes do I want to do? Do I want to do cat memes? Do I want to do like UIUC memes or COVID-19 memes? Like you can explain, discuss with them, come up with a solution. And after you implement it or not, you can follow up with them. So ask if this is what they had in mind. So you should say, oh, people in my organization really like this cat meme. They really find it interesting. Because the feeling of helping people is the greatest feeling in the world. And so don't take it away from the person who gave you the feedback. And how to ask for feedback. 3 steps. First, you identify what you're looking for. Perhaps you're looking for praise or just like an evaluation or coaching in general. So evaluation would be just the parts that you want to improve and coaching would be like they help you along the way. So that's like a longer process. And next, you should make it specific. You should specifically tell them your concern instead of saying, oh, do you have any feedback? You should say, I'm a little bit concerned about my beginning. Do you think I can improve anything on that? And you can also show your approach. So why you did what you did. I tried A, I tried B, but ultimately I chose B. Do you think there's other ways or do you think A is better? And because when you want help from someone, you don't want to make them think. You tell them what you're looking for, and then they can just start from there. Because after a 90-minute presentation, nobody's going to remember what you did at every step. If you tell them, like my beginning, or when I showed my graphics, or when I'm trying to persuade people, like they would think, oh, it's that part. And then they can build onto each other because this person is going to give you a comment, and then other people will listen to their comment and perhaps they would have something else to say, and then that would make the feedback. Like it will have a discussion going on for that feedback. And you can press for examples after like they tell you their feedback. You can think about if it's useful, if you can improve your skills in the future instead of just, if that feedback is just like, oh, I think it's good, I think it's helpful, you should think about if you can improve it in the future and ask for them to expand. Shows that you're listening and that you value their feedback. So here are a few examples. So if you guys want to just shout it out or like say it in chat, like what the problem is, like for the first one. Do you have any feedback for me? What would be the problem for this Like if you ask someone to give you feedback, if you ask this. Yeah, not specific enough. Yeah, generic. Okay, yeah. So the first one is that it's not specific enough. People can't recall like which part that you're referring to. So yeah, you need to make them think. And what about the next one? How did that go in your opinion? I feel like I showed the answer already, so I can just, yeah. It results in an overall comment. Usually when you think about that, usually you go with overall, I think it's great. Overall, I think it's something, something. They won't really pinpoint to whatever is going on. Yeah, okay. What about the third one? What is one thing that I can improve on? Mm-hmm. Yeah, limiting, very specific. They have to be critical. Yeah. Yeah, also one thing is a little bit limiting. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Okay, so this, I think it might work because they, like, again, you didn't really make them think, but you're asking for improvement. So that would be evaluation. You're limiting it to evaluation. But one thing probably isn't as good. Okay, what about number 4? Well, actually the last two, there actually isn't a problem. I just thought like, what's great about it? Like, is what I'm asking. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So when you specify what part, like, give it, when we go back to like how to give good feedback, the first part, focus, right? Areas of improvement and ways to improve. You already gave them the areas of improvement, so it's easy for them to build it on. So yeah, because you're asking for help and you want them to make, you want to make it as easy as possible for them. So you tell them the area that you're concerned about, your concern, and then ask for them for feedback. Specific and open-ended at the same time. Yeah. Okay. What about the last one? Maybe they can't answer on the spot. Yeah, that's another problem when it comes to feedback. Like sometimes they've been listening for you for a long time, and like you ask them what they can improve on, and like, I'm not gonna remember everything you said. So there's that awkward silence when you ask, do you have any feedback for me, until the first person actually says something. And I feel like when the longer it goes, the less likely people are going to jump in and actually give you a feedback. It's just going to be a dead silence for like 10 minutes. And yeah, maybe they can't answer on the spot. I've tried A and B, I think. Do you think there's another way to go about it? I feel like if you show them your approach, like let's say you want to show your sales revenue, and then you said, I tried a bar chart, I tried a line chart, and I ultimately went with the line chart because I think like it shows the trend. Do you think there's another way to go about it? Some people might jump in and say, oh, I think a dotted chart would work better. And then other people, they would hear their feedback and then they can build onto it, saying that, oh, I think a dotted chart might work well, blah, blah, blah. And then the whole discussion will be going on. And that is, I think that's when good feedback happens. Okay. That's it. That's all I have for my workshop. Does anyone have any questions?
In the spirit of giving feedback, I have some feedback.
Okay.
Oh, I thought this was really great. For the feedback session, I think a lot of it, I like a lot of us like kind of like know about, but we don't. It's like up in the air, and you kind of like solidified it into words and made it like specific. But I feel like it's like stuff people try to do inherently, but like it's hard to like put a finger on it, but you kind of like solidified it. So I thought that was really great. Also, you mentioned like for listening, like taking notes and stuff. And I actually like highly recommend that. I started doing that last semester. For every single meeting, I have like a notepad next to me. And before the meeting, I write down like talking points and questions, and I take notes during the meeting. And like it really helps like me get like 110% out of the meeting. And it actually really impresses the people you're meeting, especially if you're meeting someone important. They're like, whoa, you're listening to me, or whoa, what an excellent question. And it helps you like follow up as well. So I highly recommend that. So I literally just have like a little notepad that I bring to every meeting, and it's like filled with notes and questions.
So he does pre-meeting and like during meeting and post-meeting. So that's better. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just like during meeting, if you don't know what's going on, a few keywords help. Yeah. But I think, because also like there's like science on like if you write it down, your thumb like helps your memory and things like that. I think there's like research on that. Yeah.
And last thing really quick is Nikki also mentioned this one time. I remember because like I probably wrote it down. See, basically, like giving compliments, like and telling people their strong suits, makes it easier for them to take criticism in the future. So it, like balancing it out, and that's actually so true because when we're working on covalence, one of the groups we were working with, because it was such a like uptight professional environment, they would only call us out for our shortcomings and only give us criticism. So there was like this super negative energy between like our two groups. Even though later on when we talked to them individually, it turned out that they were just a group of normal people and they actually really liked what we were doing. So if they had shown the other side, then we wouldn't have this super toxic environment that we were working in. So it's definitely super important to like balance out the criticism with like the things you like about or like the strong suits about other people.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because feedback, I don't know, it gives me a negative connotation, like improvement or like, yeah. Okay, you ask how are your slides so pretty? Try Microsoft PowerPoint. They give you design ideas. Okay, does anyone have, okay, I'm not gonna say, does anyone have any feedback? Does anyone have any questions? Okay, if not, then I can hand it over to Howie. These are all the articles that I used. If you have any questions on like which part of the presentation comes from which article, I can direct you to the right one. But like what I have, especially the ones that I only have like 3 points or 5 points, those usually come from like 1 or 2 articles. And I only pick the ones that I think were the most helpful. Yeah, I cite my resources because this is gonna be on YouTube and I don't want people to be like, this is not your stuff. Okay, I'm gonna hand it to Howie.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure. Welcome to my workshop on how to lead an effective team. So before we begin, I just want to let you guys know why building an effective team is relevant to all of us. Well, everyone here, we're either a venture director or an exec member, right? So as a venture director, you're eventually going to be building your own team and leading it, right? So it's important to know how to kickstart and maintain an efficient team. And the same goes with exec directors here too. We're leading our own respective teams. We need to know how to make our team run efficiently. There are 7 steps in building a team, right? Or tips. And the first one is understand what a great team is. The second one is establish strong leadership. Next is build a connection between the team members. Fourth is establish a connection with each team member. The fifth one is advocate contributions and collaboration. And the sixth one is invest in team building events. And the last one is monitor and review everything. So the first one is understanding what a great team is. So before we begin on what comprises what a good team is, I want to quickly define what a team is, right? So what a team is it's an interdependent collection of individuals who work together toward a common goal and who share responsibility for specific outcomes for their organizations. There are three properties that make up a team. The first one is actions of members. Like I said, they are interdependent and coordinated. Second one is each member must have a specific role. Um, the third one is there must be common tasks, goals, and objectives for the entire team. And a good example of a team is the Penguins of Madagascar. There's a team of four penguins. There's Skipper, Kowalski, Rico, and Private, who perform various like spy missions or whatever, right? And their overall goal is to like protect their home, right? And we have Skipper, he's like the leader of the whole team. And then we have Kowalski, he's like the strategist of the team. And then we have Rico, he's like the weapons and explosives specialist. And then we have Private, who's like a little wholesome dude who gives like honest feedback, right? So as you can see, they all have their own specified roles, and they're obviously interdependent, and they're all working together to accomplish that overarching goal together, which is, I think, protecting their homes or whatever, or protecting the New York Central Zoo. I forgot, but anyways, yeah, that's an example of what a team is, right? And what makes a good team? An efficient teamwork doesn't just occur out of the blue, right? It demands conscious efforts from all individuals within the team, including the leader. A great team consists of a few elements that must always be present, and the first one is clear objectives and relevance. Each team member must be aware of the meaning of a particular activity as part of a larger objective, and if they fail to do so, then it kind of collapses the whole team, right? For example, like if you ask the team to engage in blogging for the sake of business promotion, they must understand how this blog will help the organization achieve higher objectives. And if they don't see the purpose of the task, then the objective was not understood. And the second one is another good element of a good team is establishing clear roles. Everyone within the team must be aware of the hierarchy within the team and their roles in it. As a leader of the team, you must identify and clear some role stressors if they happen to appear. And the first one is role ambiguity, which means a member is confused of what should be done for the job. An example of this is that they're not given like enough instructions to complete their job, right? And the second one is role conflict, which means demands from different roles are incompatible. So an example of that is a member has conflicting deadlines for some tasks, and it's hard to complete all of them, right? So you have to find a way to not let that happen. And the third one is role overload, which means someone is taking on too many roles at the same time, which could cause burnout. Again, it is important to establish clear roles, which means avoiding all three role stressors. The third element of a good team is flawless communication. So whenever someone has a question or gets an idea, they should be able to communicate it and communicate it well. And there should be like this a smooth system of where that idea goes through. And next is cooperation. Teamwork is not about individual achievements; it's about the group, what the group accomplishes together. So that is very important to establish cooperation within the team. And lastly, individual development within the team. Although it's teamwork we're talking about, the individual must not lose their authentic voice throughout the whole collaboration. They should be able to learn and develop personally throughout the experience of the team, and their voices should be heard as well. And the next tip is establishing strong leadership. So what do you guys think makes a good leader? You guys can type it in the chat or say it right now. Wait, where's the chat? Oh, yeah, what do you guys think? Oh yeah, transformational. That's a good one. I mean, I guess that is a type of leader, but not the best leader. Yeah, someone supportive and believes in your goals. That is very important. Someone who understands you, right? empathetic is really important to become a leader as well. Yeah, so essentially, what makes a good leader is someone who influences and makes sure they know what they're doing to influence their members, right? So what is a good leader? You guys already said it, right? Influential, supportive, empathetic, humble, have humility. And so the graph that you see here is based on a theory called full range theory of leadership, and it describes different leadership styles. And the first one is laissez-faire. As you can see, laissez-faire has barely any efficiency and engagement. Laissez-faire leadership is usually pretty much like absent from leading, and they try to like avoid responsibilities and decision making. And the next one is transactional leadership. It is split into management by exception and contingent reward. So members are to complete their tasks in exchange for a reward, whether it's good or bad. And the best leadership, like Tina mentioned, is transformational leadership. And like what it says in the name, these kinds of leaders who take on transformational leadership, they tend to use what I would call the 4 I's. The first one is idealized influence. The leader serves as an ideal role model for followers. They do this by emphasizing trust, commitment, empathy, and purpose. And they're aware of like their ethical consequences of decisions as well. And the next one is inspirational motivation, the ability to inspire and motivate followers. They articulate their future vision. They challenge with high standards, and they talk hopefully with enthusiasm, and they also provide and welcome encouragement. The third I is intellectual simulation. A transformational leader, they question old assumptions and values. They try to stimulate new ways of doing things and encourage expression of ideas and reasons. And the fourth one is individualized consideration, right? As a transformational leadership, they demonstrate genuine concern for the needs and feelings of their members. They try to listen attentively, they advise or coach, and they teach, right? They try to help improve their own members. Give me a second. Okay. And then if you want to know how to build an effective team, you must learn how to be an effective leader first. Only an effective leader has influence even when they are not around. So the right kind of leadership does not mean imposing authority imposing authority in an authoritarian way. It means fostering trust through transparency and having an honest approach. So after knowing what a good leader is, here's how you can establish it. The first one is having a big picture vision. All your decisions must be transparent and guided by a greater perspective. And then the second one is delegate tasks and responsibilities. You got to delegate in the most effective way possible and try not to overwhelm individuals with too much work. And again, that leads to role overload, right? So we want to not make sure to not overwhelm everyone and make sure our delegations are set correctly and within a good amount. And the third one is communicate clear goals, knowing your team's purposes and be able to help them understand it by communicating clearly and without room for understanding. And the fourth one is to be honest and essentially build rapport. You're the leader here, so after all, you need to show that you can lead, and also you have to show that you care and that you care about your own members by building that rapport. And the next step is to build a connection between the team members. There are a few ways to help members of the team to familiarize themselves with each other's roles and work styles. And one of them is having team building exercises. Simple activities to help members build trust and letting them know they can depend on one another. That's a good way to build that connection, right? The next one is to improve cooperation among team members. And you can do this by encouraging them to get to know each other, like set up coffee chats for members to know one another and essentially break that ice. And the last one is obviously encourage collaboration. And the fourth tip or step is to establish establishing connection with each team member. So after building connection among members, it is important to establish connection between you as leader and your team, the members, right? You need to work to build trust and engagement with each member on a personal and professional level, and find out how. And we can do this by like finding out their unique skills, interests, or strengths that they can be used to improve the team's outputs. Or you can just talk to them about like knowing them more like personally by setting up coffee chats with them, right? All of this will help establish a deeper personal connection with each and one of your members. And the next tip is to invite contributions and collaboration. Harnessing the power of your members' ideas can really help your business essentially to grow. So you can do that by allowing contribution and collaboration. This won't happen unless you, the leader, will lead by example by contributing and collaborating with members, right? And by doing that, eventually members will also feel more comfortable to contribute and collaborate with others. And after setting that example, seeing people collaborate and contribute, pay close attention to the way the team works together and take specific steps to improve the level of trust and cooperation. And these simple things will provide a transparent environment that allows everybody to see the bigger picture and feel more personally invested in the overall progress of the team that you have. And the next one is, the last one is, or the second to last is, invest in team building events. Different types of team building events will develop strong relations and a sense of community within the team. These events will foster more communication and collaboration among team members. It can create memorable experiences as well. So there are some few team building events that you guys can do. The first one is having a fundraising project, which will connect the team towards accomplishing like a noble goal of raising more funds for your business, right? The next one is having social events, such as like, I don't know, picnics or going out for a bowling event. The third one is having maybe outdoor activities like hiking, ice skating, climbing, and other outdoor activities, I guess. And the next one is indoor activities, right? If you can't go out to for activities, you guys can host like Zoom socials. And yeah. And the last one is to monitor and review your whole entire team, right? After doing all of that, you should see whether your initiatives are making an impact within your team, right? And there are some questions that you guys can ask yourselves to see, to review and self-reflect if your team is doing well or not. So some questions are like, what has the team achieved so far? What did they change? What did they learn? What's working well? And what aspects of the teamwork need improvement? And all of this is just to help monitor and review to see if everything's working out well, and to invite any kind of new ways to improve your team. And yeah, this is the end of my workshop. Do you guys have any questions? Okay.
Your slides are really pretty.
Thanks, I tried. Canva's also a really good software to use, or yeah, to design your presentations.
Yeah, if no one else.
Also, one more thing to say about the workshop is the first two, knowing what a great team is and establishing a great leadership is really important to having a very efficient team. Like the rest of the steps don't really matter unless you know how to lead and know what a good team comprises of. So everything follows the first and second step.
I'm gonna share what I think that I learned the most that I didn't think about leadership like before. That's trust and being honest, being transparent. Um, yeah, I can relate to that, but I like never thought about that as like a very important part of leadership, because like when someone tells you something's gonna get done, you want to think, okay, that's gonna get done. You don't want to go back, think about it 10 more times. Is it gonna get done? Because I don't trust that person.
I thought that was really, really cool because same with Tina's workshop. I think a lot of it, at least for me, like it's stuff I like unconsciously try to do, but you kind of like manifested it into words to like make it more specific. So it's easier to like act upon it if you like narrow it down. So
Yeah, I would say like both me and Tina's workshops today, like Tina's workshop on like listening and giving feedback, and mine like leading a team, they're all kind of like common sense, right? Like we should all kind of know what to do, but at the same time, we really don't know what to do to make it the most effective way to, yeah. So I feel, yeah, that's what I have to say. So I feel like even though we know what to do, it's really good to actually know what's the most effective way to do it.
Yeah, initially I was thinking about the same thing too. I was like, who doesn't know how to listen? Who doesn't know how to speak up? Probably just me. And then I was like, oh no, I'm just gonna do a presentation on it because I read some good articles and I feel like I want to share. So yeah.
yeah, but like I guess like another thing is even knowing these things, like it's like really hard to execute it sometimes. Like at least like for me, it's stuff like I try to do when I'm like leading teams, and it's like sometimes it's like hard to find specific actions to take to like act upon these things. So I guess that well, I guess I'm just saying like the execution is like difficult sometimes, but
And I feel like sometimes if we don't have like a roadmap to know what to do, it's kind of hard to like actually execute it. So like thanks to Tina, like with how to like give feedback and receive them, it's now I know how to do it better, if that makes sense, and actually like take action on that. Yeah.
Nikki just suggested that perhaps I should try Gordon Ramsay's Gordon Ramsay's leadership style.
First thing is yelling.
Yell at everyone. It's effective
That
though.
would be refreshing. I would like to see that.
Man has like 25 Michelin stars. Clearly it's working, right? Actually, that's Johnny's job. Johnny's been to the military. He has training. I can't yell at people for shit. It's one of my greatest weaknesses. Like I taught at a children's summer camp a few summers ago, and the kids always bullied me because I couldn't yell at them.
I feel like my voice is too quiet to yell at people.
Yeah, same.
Like one of my jobs right now is like at a call center, and like half the time I have to like almost like take off my mask or like speak like to the corner because like otherwise people are like, I can't hear you. And I'm like, oh, that's awkward.
Wait, Peter, stop recording.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
got you.